Robert, why are China, India, and Russia buying so much silver? That's the question I keep getting over and over. Let me tell you what I've found. 3 governments, nearly half the people on planet Earth, all quietly grabbing the same shrinking metal at the same time. They came to the same conclusion on their own. Now, governments don't move like that for something worthless. People say it's just trade, just business. That's not what's really happening. There's a reason China is paying double. There's a reason India isn't slowing down. There's a reason Russia stopped calling it an investment and started calling it something else entirely. And there's a number, a real number, that I'm willing to put my name on. I'll tell you what it is. That's coming up on the Rich Dad Radio Show. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Welcome to the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good and bad about money. This is Robert Kiyosaki, and today is just you and me. And we're talking about what the rich are teaching their kids about money. Today, it's not about kids. It's about a metal and why 3 governments are quietly buying all of it. Robert, why are China, India, and Russia buying so much silver? That's the question. I get it constantly. What do they see that Americans don't? Let me answer it straight. Silver is becoming the most strategically important metal on planet Earth. At the exact moment the supply is disappearing. At the exact moment trust in the dollar is disappearing. And when governments start competing for a metal, that's survival. I want to make sure you heard that. Not hedge funds, not day traders. Governments are competing. That's not speculation. 3 nations, nearly half of humanity, all moving the same direction at the same time. Nobody coordinated this in a meeting. Nobody signed an agreement. 3 governments looked at the same shrinking pile of metal and came to the same conclusion independently. That should scare you a little. And most Americans don't even know it's happening. Are you one of them? Here's the problem. Most people think silver is just a shiny version of gold. Wrong. Silver is not just money. Silver is strategic power. You can run an economy without gold. You cannot run a modern economy without silver. Let me say this again. You cannot run a modern economy without silver. Solar panels, electric vehicles, military technology, medical devices, water purification, and now the biggest one, the one most people haven't caught up to yet, artificial intelligence. Think about it. Every AI data center being built right now needs massive amounts of wiring, cooling, and power delivery. And silver is the best conductor of electricity known to man. No substitute works as well. So while everyone's talking about chips, nobody's talking about the metal running through the walls behind them. And it's not just AI. The whole world is getting hotter, more urban, more electrified, more air conditioning, more power grids, more demand for cooling every single year in every growing city on Earth. That demand doesn't go away. That demand only grows. People say, Robert, that's just technology. That's progress. That's what they told you. Here's what they don't tell you. Every one of those trends, AI, power grids, cooling, defense, pulls from the same shrinking pool of metal. Nobody is mining new silver fast enough to keep up. Mining takes years, permits, capital, risk. Demand doesn't wait for any of that. Here's a problem with all of that demand. Unlike gold, silver is consumed, used up, burned through, gone. That's the difference. Most people forget this part. Silver isn't just industrial. Silver is also money, real money, the kind that existed long before any government printed a dollar. For most of history, gold and silver traded at around 14 to 1. 14 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold. That ratio held for centuries. Empires rose and fell. Currencies came and went. 14 to 1, steady. Today that ratio is broken, blown apart. We'll come back to that. Because here's the problem. A dollar is a promise made by a government, and governments break promises. Silver isn't a promise. Silver doesn't care who's president, doesn't care what the Fed decides on a Tuesday afternoon. As confidence in the dollar weakens, people go looking for something real again, something that can't be printed. When we come back, I'm going to expose the system and the players who have found a way to steal silver while keeping its price low. This knowledge could benefit you greatly. We'll be right back. Here is something your financial advisor in Wall Street do not want you to know. The best deals in the world will never show up on your brokerage app. That is not an accident. The rules of money were not written for you. They were written for the rich, by the rich. That is why the average investor is funneled into stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and told to sit tight for 40 years and hope. Meanwhile, the best deals in the world are private. Real estate, oil and gas, small businesses. These assets are not subject to the same public market rules, and they consistently outperform Wall Street. You find them through relationships, education, and deal flow built over years. That is not an accident. It keeps the good deals inside a small circle while everyone else fights over what is left in public markets. If you want real returns, stop looking where everyone else is told to look. I've got a solution for you. Meet Devin Johnson, founder of Capital Club. Devin has access to deals most people don't even know exist. Deals that let you invest in a business before it goes public. Deals that cash flow regularly and consistently. Deals that can prevent you from ever paying taxes. Deals that Wall Street doesn't want you to know about. Now Devin is opening a door so you can have access to her deals. To learn more, visit Devin at capitalclub33.com. That's capitalclub33.com. I've got a neighbor, retired guy, smart guy. For years, he's been telling me about this business he wants to start. He's got the idea, he's got the plan, he's even got the name picked out, but he never launches. You know why? The setup. Which website builder? Which domain company? Which email tool? He'd open 5 tabs, burn 3 hours, and have nothing to show for it. So the business stayed in his head, where it made him exactly $0. Last week, he finally launched. I asked him how. He said, Robert, I didn't build a website. I had a conversation. He went to Hostinger and just told their AI what he wanted, plain English. Minutes later, the first version of his website was done. And here's the part I like. The domain, the hosting, the business email, all of it. One place, one account. No duct tape, no tech guy, and it costs less than what most people waste on coffee. So I can't afford it, won't work here. Rich Dad taught me, the poor say I can't. The rich ask, how can I? Here's how. Go to hostinger.com/richdad20 and use code richdad20 for 20% off. That's hostinger.com/richdad20. The people who change their financial future aren't the ones who almost did something. Go now. It's a great first step. Welcome back. Okay. I promise to tell you how silver is being stolen. Jim Rickards, the man who wrote Currency Wars, who has spent his career studying how governments manipulate money, has said the imbalance between paper silver contracts and actual physical silver is now roughly 100 to 1. 100 paper claims for every ounce that actually exists. Let me say this plainly. If you have silver ETFs, you do not have silver. All you have is fake paper. Rickards has gone as far as telling people to keep physical silver coins at home, not as an investment, as insurance. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a man who studies currency wars for a living, telling you what he's doing with his own money. Most people won't listen. Most people never do until it's too late. Here's why silver is different from gold, and this is the part they don't teach you. Gold gets found and hoarded. It sits in vaults, in central banks, in jewelry boxes, It doesn't go anywhere. Silver gets found and consumed. It goes into a phone, into a solar panel, into a missile guidance system. And once it's there, in trace amounts, spread across 1 billion devices, it's gone. Nobody's mining old cell phones for silver. It's not worth the trouble. That's why some estimates say the vast majority of all silver ever pulled from the earth has already been used up, consumed, not sitting in a vault somewhere waiting for you. Compare that to gold, where almost everything ever mined is still around, somewhere in a vault, in a museum, on someone's finger. Gold doesn't disappear, it just changes owners. Silver doesn't change owners, silver changes form, and then is locked inside a circuit board in trace amounts too small to ever be worth digging back out. Let me say this again slower. Gold is hoarded, silver is used. That's the difference. So every year the supply gets a little smaller, and the demand from solar, from defense, from AI, from air conditioning in a hotter, more crowded world gets a little bigger. Smaller supply, bigger demand. You don't need a finance degree to know what that does to a price. Now combine that with 3 governments deciding independently to start stockpiling what's left. That's not an accident, that's preparation. Now let's talk about who's grabbing it before it's gone. China is first. China is already the world's 2nd largest silver producer. You'd think that means they have plenty. They don't act like it. China is now buying silver directly from miners in Peru and Mexico before that silver ever reaches an open market, paying nearly double the price the rest of the world pays. Why would anyone pay double? People say it's just demand, just growth, just business. That's what they told you. Here's the real reason. Paying double isn't a business decision. Nobody runs a business that way. You pay double when you're not trying to make a profit on the metal. You're trying to make sure you have the metal, no matter what it costs. China doesn't trust Western exchanges, doesn't trust Western vaults, doesn't trust Western settlement systems. They want the metal inside China, refined by China, controlled by China. Think about it. Nations don't do that for a shiny metal they like the look of. Nations do that when they're preparing for supply shocks. Nations do that when they're preparing for trade wars. Nations do that when they no longer believe the U.S. dollar will keep running the world. This is important. Jim Rickards has pointed out that the moment any real segment of the market demands physical delivery instead of paper contracts, the exchanges and custodians suddenly discover they don't have nearly enough actual metal to hand over. Keep listening. If you are an entrepreneur, you need to hear this. If you are a gold bug, you need to hear this. And if you're looking to find cash-flowing deals that outperform Wall Street, you need to take heed. We'll be right back. I've got a neighbor, retired guy, smart guy. For years, he's been telling me about this business he wants to start. He's got the idea, he's got the plan, he's even got the name picked out, but he never launches. You know why? The setup. Which website builder? Which domain company? Which email tool? He'd open 5 tabs, burn 3 hours, and have nothing to show for it. So the business stayed in his head, where it made him exactly $0. Last week, he finally launched. I asked him how. He said, Robert, I didn't build a website. I had a conversation. He went to Hostinger and just told their AI what he wanted, plain English. Minutes later, the first version of his website was done. And here's the part I like. The domain, the hosting, the business email, all of it. One place, one account. No duct tape, no tech guy, and it costs less than what most people waste on coffee. So I can't afford it, won't work here. Rich Dad taught me, the poor say I can't. The rich ask, how can I? Here's how. Go to hostinger.com/richdad20 and use code richdad20 for 20% off. That's hostinger.com/richdad20. The people who change their financial future aren't the ones who almost did something. Go now. It's a great first step. Here is something your financial advisor in Wall Street do not want you to know. The best deals in the world will never show up on your brokerage app. That is not an accident. The rules of money were not written for you. They were written for the rich, by the rich. That is why the average investor is funneled into stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and told to sit tight for 40 years and hope. Meanwhile, the best deals in the world are private, real estate, oil and gas, small businesses. These assets are not subject to the same public market rules, and they consistently outperform Wall Street. You find them through relationships, education, and deal flow built over years. That is not an accident. It keeps the good deals inside a small circle while everyone else fights over what is left in public markets. If you want real returns, stop looking where everyone else is told to look. I've got a solution for you. Meet Devin Johnson, founder of Capital Club. Devin has access to deals most people don't even know exist. Deals that let you invest in a business before it goes public. Deals that cash flow regularly and consistently. Deals that can prevent you from ever paying taxes. Deals that Wall Street doesn't want you to know about. Now Devin is opening a door so you can have access to her deals. To learn more, visit Devin at capitalclub33.com. That's capitalclub33.com. Thank you for listening to my show. Listen to this carefully, please. Thanks to an obscure 112-year-old law, President Trump recently made a critical move that could impact your financial future, and it could create an explosion of new wealth for you and every hardworking American citizen. In fact, according to my friend Jim Rickards, a former advisor to the CIA and the Pentagon, with close contacts inside the Trump White House, the president's move could help unleash $100 trillion in new wealth. To find out how to stake your claim, go to the2026law.com for all of the details. That's the2026law.com. I'll add the link in the show description. Paid for by Paradigm Press. Welcome back. We were discussing China and China's devouring of silver. China isn't waiting to discover that the hard way. China is making sure it already has the metal before the scramble starts. Most Americans have never heard the phrase physical delivery risk in their life. China thinks about it every single day. That's not speculation. That's called getting there first. China secures the metal. India secures the future. In the last 5 years, India imported over 900 million ounces of silver. Let that number sit for a second. More silver than the entire London bullion market moved in that same stretch of time. Most people believe India is just buying jewelry, wedding gold, wedding silver, tradition. That's what they told you. Here's the truth. India is building out solar manufacturing, electronics production, defense capability, all at the same time, and silver runs through every single one of those industries. Take away the silver, and India's entire industrial plan stalls. Solar panels don't get built. Electronics don't get made. Defense systems don't get manufactured. That's not a small risk for a nation of over 1 billion people trying to modernize all at once. This is important. India is not betting on the price of silver going up. India is securing the raw material its entire economic future depends on. That's a different decision, a bigger decision. One is speculation, the other is national planning. A speculator hopes the price goes up. A nation makes sure the supply is there, regardless of the price. That's the difference between gambling on a metal and building a country on top of it. Think about it this way. If you knew for a fact that a raw material was about to become scarce and your entire industrial future depended on having enough of it, would you wait? Would you hope the price stays low? Or would you go get it now while you still can? India already answered that question. Most Americans haven't even been asked it yet. China secured the metal. India secured the future. Russia did something different, something no major nation had done out loud before. Russia openly stated it is accumulating silver for strategic state purposes, not investment, not portfolio diversification, national security. Let me say that again because it matters. When a government stops calling something an investment and starts calling it a national security asset, that tells you everything. It means they expect shortages. It means they expect price shocks. It means they no longer trust foreign currencies to protect them when the shock hits. Russia has spent years getting cut off from Western banking systems, sanctioned, frozen, locked out. A country that's been frozen out of the dollar system once doesn't want to be caught unprepared twice. So it stockpiles something no sanction can freeze, no bank can seize, no wire transfer can block, a physical bar of metal sitting in a vault inside its own borders. You can't wire transfer silver out of a country by pressing a button. You can't freeze a bar sitting in a Russian vault from a desk in Washington. That's exactly why they want it. Here's the problem. 3 nations, China, India, Russia, representing close to 40% of every human being alive on planet Earth, all draining the same shrinking pile of silver at the same time, for 3 different reasons that all point the same direction. That's not a coincidence. That's not a trend chasing itself. That's preparation on a scale most Americans have never been asked to think about. And while 3 governments representing billions of people are moving, what has your government told you to do? We just covered 3 governments, 3 reasons, 1 shrinking supply. Now let's talk about you. Because here's the number that should bother you. Less than 1% of American wealth is allocated to precious metals. Less than 1%. While 3 nations, representing 40% of humanity, are hoarding silver behind closed doors, everyday Americans are chasing stocks, chasing crypto, chasing whatever's trending this week. People say precious metals are old-fashioned, outdated, a relic. That's what they told you. Meanwhile, the very governments telling you gold and silver don't matter are the ones quietly buying all they can get. Think about it. Would a government stockpile something worthless? Would a nation risk its own national security on a relic? This is important. Nobody ever sat you down and taught you what a government does with its money versus what it tells you to do with yours. 2 different playbooks, one for them, one for you. The question was never whether silver is a good investment. The question is why China, India, and Russia are preparing for a future most Americans aren't even paying attention to. Most people won't ask that question. Most people are too busy watching their phone, a phone that, by the way, has silver inside it too. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Your financial education was never designed to teach you this. Your school never mentions strategic metals. Your bank isn't going to bring it up either. That's not an accident. That's the system working exactly as it was built to work. Quiet, comfortable, and unprepared. Comfortable until the day it isn't. That's how it always works. Slow, then all at once. Are you going to keep watching, or are you going to start paying attention? Let's go back to that ratio I mentioned earlier, gold to silver. Historically, 14:1. For most of my life, that ratio has been broken, sometimes 50:1, sometimes worse. People say that means silver is cheap. That's what they told you. Here's what it really means. It means silver has been mispriced against its own scarcity for decades. I bought silver back when it was under $3 an ounce, before most people were paying attention, before China, India, or Russia were doing this out loud. I bought more when it crossed 13, then again later at higher prices still. Not because I could predict the exact number. Nobody can predict the exact number, not me, not Rickards, not anyone on television, because I understood the pattern. Silver gets consumed, gold gets hoarded. That pattern doesn't reverse. Jim Rickards has publicly forecast silver eventually moving well above $100 an ounce, driven by exactly the forces we just walked through: shrinking supply, central bank buying, and a paper market that can't deliver the physical metal it promises. I've said this myself out loud more than once. I am still calling for silver to hit $200 an ounce. Could I be wrong? Sure. Rickards could be wrong too. But here's why I keep saying it. In this technology age, silver has become the structural metal of the modern economy, the same way iron was the structural metal of the industrial age. Every age gets built on a metal. Iron built the last one. Silver is building this one. I could be wrong about the exact number. So could he. Do your own research, always. I could be wrong. He could be wrong. Anyone selling you certainty is selling you something else. But understand this. When the man who studies currency collapse for a living, and 3 governments representing billions of people are all moving the same direction, that's not noise. That's a signal. Here's the difference between the rich and everyone else. The rich don't wait for permission. The rich don't wait for CNBC to tell them it's safe. The rich watch what governments do, not what governments say. China is buying. India is buying. Russia is buying. Not because they're rich, because they understand something most people were never taught. That currency is a promise. And silver is not a promise. Silver is a fact. You can print $1. You cannot print an ounce of silver. You can bail out a bank. You cannot bail out a shortage. That's the difference. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's what I tell people. You don't need to buy a truckload of silver. Buy 1 coin. Hold it in your hand. Feel the weight of it. That 1 coin won't make you rich. That's not the point. The point is, the moment you own it, you start paying attention. You start reading the news differently. You start asking why China is buying, why India is buying, why Russia is buying. That 1 coin is not the investment. That 1 coin is the education. Most people will hear this episode and do nothing. They'll go back to their phone, their job, their comfortable, quiet, unprepared life. That's why most people stay stuck. Not because they're not smart, because being smart was never the problem. Being asleep was the problem. Because nobody ever asked them the question I'm about to ask you. 3 governments, 40% of humanity, preparing for a future most Americans refuse to look at. Are you? Thank you for your time. Thank you for caring about your future. Thank you for understanding that you are the only one who cares about taking care of you. Take care.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.